A new strain causing a massive pandemic outbreak similar to COVID-19 in 2020? Hospitals and crematoriums across China are overwhelmed, funeral homes are springing up like mushrooms. Bankruptcy spreads like wildfire, and China's middle class falls back into poverty overnight. In desperation, many voluntarily choose prison to escape the crushing pressure. The male-to-female ratio in Chinese blind dates is 1:9. The prince on a white horse they dream of never shows up. Leftover women face tough times, filled with despair and suffering. Delivery riders expose black tech in restaurants, where additives make bland food delicious. Fake food everywhere. Is there anything safe left to eat in China? The countdown to 2025 has begun, and we're just hours away from welcoming an exciting new year. We'd like to take a moment to thank all of you for your incredible support and for being part of the Decoding China channel. Your encouragement and engagement mean the world to us. Wishing everyone a happy new year. May 2025 bring you and your loved ones happiness, good health, and endless opportunities. Let's embrace this new chapter with hope and determination, making it our best year yet. A new strain causing a massive pandemic outbreak similar to COVID-19 in 2020? Hospitals and crematoriums across China are overwhelmed, funeral homes are springing up like mushrooms. In recent days, hospitals across China have once again become overwhelmed. Multiple overlapping virus outbreaks are occurring, and many believe this wave rivals the COVID-19 pandemic from 3 years ago. A chilling phrase has been circulating online as the most terrifying statement of the moment: "Why are my neighbors all dying one after another?" Many Chinese netizens have reported knowing people who have passed away in quick succession. The constant sound of music, gongs, and firecrackers accompanying funeral ceremonies has further heightened concerns about the severity of COVID-19. Ironically, while most industries in China are declining, the funeral and cremation business is booming. Work in the sector seems endless, with new businesses sprouting up like mushrooms. In some areas, crematoriums are operating beyond capacity to the point where furnaces have exploded due to overuse. As previously reported, a doctor in Jiangsu mentioned that some hospitals have encountered an unknown virus with a mortality rate far exceeding that of COVID-19. In one hospital ward, 6 out of 30 patients have already died, with several more in critical condition. This wave of viral infections is severe, with a high mortality rate. Despite this, the Chinese Communist Party continues to downplay the situation, referring to it simply as the flu. But is it really just the flu? If it were truly influenza, would 1 in 10 tests come back positive? Traditionally, the flu spreads more in colder northern regions. Why, then, is it so widespread in the south this time? The symptoms, coughing, fever, pneumonia, heart failure, and even death, are deeply concerning. At 1 a.m., I took my child to a children's hospital for treatment, and we were number 800 in line. By the time we finished, the hospital was already at full capacity. Beds are running out not only in pediatric wards, but also in adult wards, as many young and elderly individuals are falling ill with fevers and other complications. My wife and I recently traveled to Guangzhou for a work-related event. Shortly after returning, she began to run a fever. I took her to the hospital, but at that time, I was still fine. Soon enough, I fell ill too and started experiencing fever symptoms. The fever fluctuated, rising and falling repeatedly. Along with it came body aches and headaches, eerily reminiscent of the symptoms we had when we contracted COVID-19 a few years ago. Later, I discovered that 8 or 9 people who attended the same event also tested positive. The doctor explained that there's no definitive treatment for this virus. The available options include either oseltamivir or sofosbuvir, which costs 200 yuan for just 2 tablets. The experience felt strikingly similar to COVID-19 and was extremely uncomfortable. Professor Xie Tian of the University of South Carolina's Aiken Business School remarked that while China is already experiencing an outbreak, the authorities are likely downplaying or concealing the full extent of the situation. However, such efforts to suppress information may soon fail. The most severe cases involve white lung, which is alarming. Symptoms such as chest tightness, palpitations, and shortness of breath require immediate medical attention. Some postoperative patients have also developed white lung recently, requiring urgent respiratory support and intubation. The number of sudden deaths has noticeably increased. Workers in the funeral industry report that crematoriums are running at full capacity. One netizen shared a story about a friend who has worked in the funeral industry for 4 or 5 years. In previous years, there were only a few months of peak demand, with at least half the year being a slow season. But this year, every single month has been as busy as the peak season. Since February, workers have been so overwhelmed that taking even a few days off has been impossible. While most industries in China are struggling or on the verge of bankruptcy, the funeral business is thriving. Over 600 funeral-related businesses have been registered since last year, and many areas are expanding their crematorium facilities. Meanwhile, medical staff are stretched to their limits. A pediatric emergency doctor recently described their grueling schedule: 3 night shifts, 1 day shift, and 1 overtime shift in just a week. Since October, a combination of multiple viruses, including adenovirus, mycoplasma pneumonia, chickenpox, and the highly lethal human metapneumovirus, has been spreading across the country. The death toll has risen sharply, affecting not only the general population but also prominent figures, including provincial officials, military generals, scholars, and other high-ranking members of the Chinese Communist Party. Bankruptcy spreads like wildfire, and China's middle class falls back into poverty overnight. In desperation, many voluntarily choose prison to escape the crushing pressure. Today is my birthday, and it's also the 55th day since I declared bankruptcy. Hello, everyone. My name is Fan Fan. I'm 28 years old and currently in debt to the tune of 2.8 million yuan, approximately $383,000. When you're down, everyone kicks you. A fallen phoenix is no better than a chicken. I reached out to every relative and friend I could think of, but I couldn't get a single penny. Carrying debts of over 8 million yuan, approximately $1.1 million by the age of 40, I feel like I might not be able to go on much longer. I was once a millionaire entrepreneur, running a restaurant, managing educational services, and even venturing into construction. My garage was filled with luxury cars, and I had a happy, harmonious family. However, now I've lost everything. My family has fallen apart, and my wife chose to divorce me because of the crushing debt. In recent years, China's economy has steadily declined, and the phenomenon of the middle class falling into poverty has become increasingly common. Many once prosperous middle-class families are now financially trapped under the combined pressures of mortgages, education costs, and daily expenses. There are reportedly 800 million indebted people across the country. Do you think they aren't working hard? Quite the opposite. It's often those who work late into the night who owe the most. Despite their relentless efforts, they still can't keep up with payments on services like Huawei, credit cards, mortgages, car loans, personal loans, and more. Money barely warms in their hands before it's gone. As the end of the year approaches, they remain buried in debt, far from building any savings, and are on the verge of becoming debt farmers. This reflects the harsh reality for most people today. Many rely on juggling company loans while using credit cards to cover rent and daily expenses. Unexpected costs push them further into online loans or additional credit card debt. This cycle of debt is like a tightening rope. The more you struggle, the tighter it gets. Even with endless overtime and constant hard work, their bank accounts remain empty. Despite their efforts, the goal of clearing their debts remains a distant dream. Some people in debt can no longer endure the torment and have even considered going to jail voluntarily to escape the crushing pressure. One man recounted, "Today, I reported myself to the police. I asked the officer if I could willingly go to prison so I could live and eat for free. Is that an option?" Due to his company's bankruptcy, he is now 3.66 million yuan in debt, his bank accounts are frozen, and his Alipay account is restricted. He can't even find a job because no one dares to hire him. Even having meals has become a problem. He said, "Every day, I wander in desolate areas or along the roadside. Everyone around me is laughing at me. Betrayal by friends and being kicked while I'm down, these experiences are vividly reflected in my life, and they are unbearable." Nearly 90% of China's middle class consists of small business owners and entrepreneurs. As China's economy continues its gradual decline, this group is increasingly falling back into poverty. Previously, people joked about the 3 deadly traps of the middle class: a mortgage nearing 10 million yuan, a non-working spouse, and 2 kids in international schools. Despite the Chinese government's efforts to implement consumption-stimulating policies, these measures have been met with public criticism and limited effectiveness. Many people vented their frustration online. If I had money, wouldn't I know how to spend it? Do I need your stimulation? And I'm part of a vulnerable group, not an unintelligent one. I know countless ways to spend money, but there are virtually no ways for me to make money. You keep talking about stimulating consumption. Why don't you stimulate income instead? Do I lack stimulation? What I lack is money. Xin Mingxi, director of the National Security Research Institute at Taiwan's Institute for National Defense and Security Research, commented that the Chinese government seems to have no effective solutions left to save the economy. It has been unable to resolve the real estate crisis or improve local government finances, and measures aimed at stimulating the stock market have instead left more people trapped in financial losses. He remarked, "These market rescue measures are not just like a rocket launcher, they are like a fleeting firework, seemingly brilliant for a moment but quickly plunging into darkness." Both domestic and international observers are pessimistic. Recently, senior economic commentator Wang Yi highlighted 3 reasons for China's struggles to boost consumption in his article. 1. The proportion of disposable income to GDP is too low. 2. Household leverage, debt, has skyrocketed. 3. The wealth gap in China is too wide, with the vast majority of the population living in poverty. The male-to-female ratio in Chinese blind dates is 1:9. The prince on a white horse they dream of never shows up. Leftover women face tough times, filled with despair and suffering. I've been feeling utterly defeated by my recent experiences with blind dates. The guys I like don't like me, and the ones who like me, I'm not interested in. Everyone keeps saying, just lower your standards, but I honestly can't bring myself to accept short or unattractive men, it feels like torture. Finding a partner is just too hard, being single seems easier, and honestly, being on my own isn't that bad. Earlier this year, the Chinese National Bureau of Statistics released data showing that there are 30 million more men than women in the country. So why are there still so many unmarried women? Analysts suggest that while there are more single men, many of them are older and live in rural areas, whereas unmarried women tend to live in big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. In Beijing alone, there are at least 1 million older single women, 4 times the number of single men. Let's talk about the topic of leftover women in China. This term generally refers to women over the age of 27 who are still single. One of the reasons for the large number of older single women is their high expectations for a partner. Many women hope to find a successful man with a high income to settle down with, but that often doesn't work out. As the years go by, the prince on a white horse they dream of never shows up. Their better single than settle mindset keeps them holding out, but their youth slips away as disappointment accumulates. Around 2005, marriage corners started appearing in parks across cities like Shanghai, Beijing, and Nanjing. These are places where parents, not young people, gather to find matches for their children. Parents browse resumes, pin to fences, or exchange flyers about their children in an attempt to arrange suitable matches. At these marriage corners, the ratio of women to men is about 9:1, meaning women's parents dominate 80 to 90% of the activity. A blogger who works as a matchmaker complained about older single women, saying she won't take on clients over 45 unless they're willing to date divorced men because their options are so limited. She shared the story of a 33-year-old client who first sought her help at 28 or 29. This woman had great credentials, she worked in a government office, owned a house and car, and was beautiful. Many men wanted to meet her. She claimed her standards weren't high, but she rejected every match. For example, I introduced her to a man who was 1.72 meters tall and worked in a government office. She said he was too short. Then, I introduced her to a teacher who was 1.85 meters tall, and she said he was too skinny, like a bamboo stick. Now she's 33 and says she regrets her decisions. She told me she's willing to marry anyone with decent conditions and wants a quick wedding. Once women pass 30, the quality of potential matches drops noticeably, with each one being worse than the last. She even asked me, why are the options getting worse on my end? I wanted to say, sweetheart, don't you realize? Most men your age have already married. The few good ones left don't want someone your age, they're looking for younger women. The matchmaker added that age is the most critical factor for women in the matchmaking market. Women shouldn't delay their marriage for work or career ambitions, as it could cost them their chance. Now let's look at the experience of a man on a blind date. He met a 36-year-old woman introduced by a friend. Her requirements were as follows: 700,000 yuan, approximately $95,800 in savings, a fully paid house with no mortgage, a car worth at least 500,000 yuan, and a monthly salary of over 20,000 yuan, approximately $2,740. She didn't care about personality or character, calling those things nonsense, and said she preferred to be practical. After hearing this, my friend patted me on the shoulder and said, "Let's go." I rode my electric scooter home. Jia, a single woman in her early 40s, is a department manager at a large company. She has a stable, well-paying job, owns a car and a house, and has been single for a long time. She had originally planned to spend the rest of her life alone. However, after falling ill recently and being hospitalized, she witnessed how another patient's husband cared for her with great devotion. This deeply moved her, and she decided she wanted a husband too. She shared her criteria with a matchmaker. "My standards for a partner aren't high," she said. "First, I want someone around my age, though I'm willing to consider men under 50. He should be mature, stable, and have a steady job with a regular income. His height should be between 1.75 and 1.8 meters. His temperament should be normal, not irritable, and he should be responsible, caring, and have no bad habits. His values should align with mine. He should be handsome, the kind of man I can proudly show off. I care about appearances and want someone who will elevate my status in front of my relatives and friends, treating me like a queen. This is non-negotiable." She added, "Second, I want to discuss the bride price openly. We're all adults, so I prefer to put everything on the table. I'm asking for 880,000 yuan, approximately $120,000 as a bride price, because I believe that once a woman enters marriage, her sacrifices are greater than a man's. This is my way of ensuring financial security." After hearing her requirements, the matchmaker left without saying a word. In the comments section, one netizen wrote, "Wait another 88 years, and your dream will surely come true." Another joked, "I think the matchmaker was already giving you face by listening until the end before leaving." Delivery riders expose black tech in restaurants, where additives make bland food delicious. Fake food everywhere. Is there anything safe left to eat in China? As the new year approaches, it is the perfect time for people to enjoy a hearty meal. Yet, as they indulge, many Chinese can't help but wonder, is the food they're eating truly safe? Living under the Chinese government's administration, even something as basic as eating can provoke anxiety. On November 19, 2024, Mr. Jiao visited the Yuanji Yun Dumplings restaurant in Beijing's Lideika district and spent 14 yuan on fresh meat wonton noodles. This brand operates over 4,000 branches across China. However, as he reached the bottom of the bowl, he discovered a 3-centimeter-long black and purple foreign object, which was later identified as an earthworm. Mr. Jiao reported that Yuanji Food initially offered to refund his 14 yuan meal. Later, they increased the offer to 500 yuan as compensation. Complaints against Yuanji Yun dumplings aren't new. Multiple customers have reported finding foreign objects in their food, including cockroaches, stones, and small plastic pieces. In China today, nothing is as it seems, not even simple yams grown from the soil. A man commented, "Look at this. They're giving the yams a bath. Is it to make them easier to store, or is there some other reason? Who knows? But we all know that once people eat this, it could lead to chronic illnesses like cancer." Belt fish, a delicacy loved by many, is often associated with nostalgic childhood memories of fried food during Chinese New Year. However, in China, even belt fish has become a health hazard. Some belt fish are soaked in formaldehyde to enhance their appearance. Formaldehyde is strictly prohibited in food processing and is classified as a Group 1 carcinogen by the World Health Organization. Yet, fish sellers in China use formaldehyde to make their products look fresher and sell more, a practice as terrifying as it is unscrupulous. Formaldehyde isn't limited to fish. It's also used on miniature mushrooms. Even seemingly ordinary mushrooms are tainted by hidden black tech methods. Cooking at home doesn't guarantee safety, as food bought from the market may already be contaminated. A woman wiped scallions she had purchased with a tissue, revealing a layer of chemical residue. One netizen remarked, "Our economy hasn't advanced at all, just empty talk." The more you learn, the more worried you become. There's nothing left to eat. Might as well go back to farming. Even the soil has plastic contamination. Cooking at home isn't the only concern. Ordering takeout is equally risky, as revealed by a delivery rider. There are some takeout meals you should never order. Take fried chicken for 10 to 20 yuan, it may taste good, but I wouldn't eat it even if it were given to me. Some of this meat has been frozen for who knows how long, and when it's taken out, it stinks. They just add some seasoning, fry it up with some tech magic, and sell it to you. You can't even tell the difference. And some restaurants only serve takeout. Their hygiene is terrible, and many meals come from prepackaged ingredients. For instance, dishes like braised pork rice or claypot meals are made from prepackaged sauces, costing just a few yuan. They heat it, pack it, and send it to you. These packages have long shelf lives, loaded with preservatives and additives. On December 7, 2024, a netizen posted a delivery rider's cautionary video, warning, "Avoid restaurants that leave you feeling unusually thirsty after eating." These places often use black tech ingredients like 1 drop of fragrance, ethyl maltol, a powerful chemical additive. Even a small amount can make bland food taste great. However, after eating it, you'll experience extreme thirst that no amount of water can quench. This thirst is a sign your body is activating its defense mechanism to flush out toxins through the kidneys. The CCP continues to deceive the public while mercilessly suppressing those who dare to speak the truth. Despite its heavy-handed tactics, fairness and justice remain deeply rooted in people's hearts. Increasingly, not only are many Chinese citizens recognizing the severity of food safety issues, but even animals seem to discern what's unsafe. One example involves starchy sausages, a popular and affordable street food, later exposed to be made with harmful bone paste. A humorous video shows a zoo monkey sniffing a fried starchy sausage, with hesitation, refusing to take a bite. But how long will the public tolerate such blatant disregard for their basic right to safe food? Perhaps it would take just one spark to unite the masses and overthrow the